Patrick Mahomes resetting the market on quarterback contracts once again. What are the chances the Eagles extend Jalen Hurts before this season? Plus, A.J. is ready to make an impact. No, not A.J. Brown, but new Eagles edge rusher A.J. Espinosa. And we're going to look at what he brings to the Birds. Plus, Jordan Mailata set to take the stage tonight in front of fans at Stateside Live. We're going to check in with Ashlyn Sullivan over there in just a bit as we welcome you here to Birds Huddle, presented by Toyota, the official automotive partner of the NFL, alongside Dave Zangaro. I am Amy Fiddle. The Eagles on break now until late July when they reconvene for training camp. So, Dave, you like to take trips on your time off. How much time away are you taking?
A little bit of time, yeah. It's a long window here. It's really the only dead period of the schedule, but we have a lot of content to get to over the next few weeks, yeah.
And people named A.J., not Brown, which is very important. I love it. Plenty of news around the league, even though it is, as Dave mentioned, a dead period. Patrick Mahomes inking that new contract worth more than $500 million yesterday. Signed in Kansas City through the 2033 season. Meanwhile, Jalen Hurts was asked about his own contract status yesterday. Take a listen.
Are you okay with your contract? Is there any talk about something changing in the future here?
Yeah, for me, I'm truly focused on being the best that I can be right now. And that's what my energy is. There's a lot of change as is. I'm focused on this offense. I'm focused on building with Sean and being at my best.
That brings us to our three-point stance presented by Toyota. Stance number one, there is no rush to get a new contract done for Jalen Hurts. He obviously danced around the question yesterday. He has $22 million guaranteed for 2027, but then nothing after that. So, Dave, do you think he gets a new deal before the season begins?
No, I don't, but like we mentioned, there's not a rush on that because this season, $51 million guaranteed, some guaranteed in that next season, so it'll probably happen after this year. If you remember, he got that contract extension in the 2023 offseason, and he got it before Joe Burrow, before Justin Herbert. I don't know if he's going to race to get it done before them this time. I think maybe he'll be happy to sit back and see what those guys get and let that be the template for his contract. Look, I understand that this is a big season for him, but it's a big season for the offense in general. I think so much of it gets framed around just Jalen Hurts, but there's a lot of change, and he's the quarterback, so I understand he's the focal point of it all, but there's a lot riding on the season just from the offense's perspective because there will be so much new going into this year.
Well, there's been a lot of talk about the other Jalen and Jalen Carter and getting that new contract. We've seen the Eagles very reluctant. They don't normally do in-season contract extensions. What are the chances they might kind of buck that trend?
I don't think they're going to. Howie Roseman, I've talked to him about this multiple times, especially when they have a season where they think they can make a Super Bowl run. Once you get to the start of the season, he basically shuts it down because he doesn't want jealousy between players and the locker room. Guys looking around like, why'd he get a deal and I didn't get a deal? And not when they're playing games. So I think that he really likes what they've done. And it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt them. Like, I think if they were willing to extend a guy like Jalen Phillips during the year, they probably get it done. They waited and then he leaves for big money. But that's the trade-off they're willing to accept if they have a team they think can go really far.
Do you think, I mean, Jalen Hurts is always going to say the right thing, but do you think it's in the back of his mind that it's not going to get done anytime soon because they don't do in-season?
Yeah, I think he knows the situation. But if there's one person I believe about being like hyper-focused on just football, I do think Jalen Hurts is that guy that, you know, a lot of players wouldn't be able to do that. Look, they're playing at a high level. They have a limited window of time in which they can make their career earnings. So I understand if players are worried about that next contract. But when Jalen Hurts says he's focused on football, I think he is probably focused on just football.
I think you're probably right on that. Stance number two, Jonathan Grenard is going to be a difference maker on the defense. The Eagles acquired the edge rusher in a trade with the Vikings during the draft. Yesterday, he spoke about teaming up on the defensive line with Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter.
It's gonna be fun, man, because those are two guys as well who are selfless, but also understand how much impact they can have on the game. And I just told him when I got here, man, look, I feed off of y'all. I'm just going to let y'all do y'all thing, and I'll eventually obviously read and see how they like to play versus certain opponents. But I'm not here to slow y'all down. I'm just going to be here and kind of feed off of y'all and obviously add to it as well, which I've already started. But just knowing that those two guys who can just take and dominate the entire game, change a whole game plan, change a whole protection for slides and stuff like that, having that as an advantage is going to be great as an edge guy. Every edge guy will tell you that. If you got two guys like that inside pushing the pocket and just causing disruption, makes our job a whole lot easier.
I mean, he's right. The line obviously is going to be stacked with him out there. Here's his production you see since 2020 when he came in the league. So how can he flourish with the Birds?
Yeah, I think he's going to be really good. And I know if you look at last season and you say, oh, he only had 3 sacks in 12 games, that's not that high-level production. But if you look at the pressure numbers, they were very good, 15.4%, actually up from the season a year ago when he had 12 sacks. So the pressure numbers were there. And I know that pressures are not equal to sacks. You want the sacks, you want to get the quarterback to the ground, but you look at those next level numbers to try to figure out, can he get that sack production back? And I think he has a history of being able to do that. So in this defense, with that defensive line, I think it's very realistic that he comes to Philadelphia and is a very productive player. And they're counting on it. I mean, they brought him in here to be that Jalen Phillips replacement, to be that guy at the top of the rotation, getting the most snaps of that group. And it's a good group. You had Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt behind him, but he's got to be the #1 guy in that rotation. I think he's going to be fine.
All right. Saints number 3, A.J. Epinesa, providing some depth along the edge, off the edge, pardon me. Yesterday, the Eagles announced they've signed the former Bills pass rusher, former second-round pick. He spent all 6 of his NFL seasons in Buffalo. Earlier this offseason, Epinesa did fail a physical after signing with the Browns, so he was back out on the market before the Eagles swooped in. So what do you think of this addition and any concern?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of concern about the medical part of it because he's too good of a player to be available in June, so it raises some question marks. But if he's healthy, yeah, I think he's a decent rotational edge player. You see the production from the years in Buffalo, and he's a different type of body, too. He's 6'6", 280, so he has the ability to just be that pure defensive end, to stop the run, to also maybe bump inside on certain downs. Also has 34.5-inch arms, which is like, okay, why does that matter? It matters because he has 4 interceptions and 21 pass breakups. Being that size in the NFL, that puts him in some rare air. He gets in passing lanes. He can be disruptive even when he doesn't get to the quarterback.
Serious wingspan right there. Begs the question, though, what does it mean for BG?
Yeah, we'll see. The nice thing about BG is that, like, I don't think he's going anywhere else to play.
True.
He's a phone call away at all times. He obviously wants to continue his career. He said that if the situation is right for the Eagles, I think they make that call. He was still giving them good snaps last year, and maybe they don't need him right now, but there could come a time where they do need him, and it's nice to be able to be like, hey, Brandon, stay in shape. We'll talk. We'll talk at some point because that would be a lot of fun.
Yes, it would be.
Is there any disappointment about the way his time here ended?
You know, you come into it and you have a sense of pride and you know how it began and definitely what we were able to accomplish, you know, and the same thing that I said last time, nothing can take that away. So for the great things that we did, now it's time to focus on achieving great things with this new iteration of the team.
And that was Jalen Hurts on A.J. Brown yesterday. And this is the Birds Lounge, presented by Cure Auto Insurance. We now welcome in our friend who we always have a good time with. It is Zach Berman from The Athletic for even more on the Birds. So, Zach, how are you?
Doing great. Great to be on with you guys.
Good to have you. Welcome to the off-season, the real off-season. We haven't gotten to speak with you since the A.J. Brown deal went officially down. Obviously, we all knew it was coming. What did you make of the self-proclaimed best to ever play in Philly and his exit and the return, obviously, on the trade as well?
Oh, he's not lying. I do think he's the best receiver to ever play in Philly. But the reality is it was an untenable situation for him to stay in Philly. And I think that was ultimately the issue with the Eagles here. I don't think it was a good outcome to trade A.J. Brown, but I think they did the best given the situation. Getting a first-round pick, I don't discount the fact that it's in 2028, and it just wasn't going to work with A.J. Brown here this year. That said, I think the Eagles would be a better team with A.J. Brown than without A.J. Brown. So it doesn't make the team better, but they did the best given the situation.
What do you make of all of the comments afterwards? I feel like Jalen Hurts gives answers, but maybe not real answers on that.
I think Jalen, he's somewhat honest in the respect that they had great memories here. And I do think Jalen's moved on to the group that they have here, but there's always more underneath the surface than they put out there in public. And there are a lot of variables here. And A.J. Brown decided that there was a better football opportunity elsewhere, right? And so there's a divorce there. And in a divorce, there's always a side that is kind of looking at that. But I think Jalen understood the situation throughout this offseason.
Yeah, as long as we get to keep the kids here in Philadelphia, that's really all that matters in the divorce. I think that's what really came out on the end. A.J. Brown, not the only big change on the offense. Of course, Sean Mannion inserted as the new OC this season. So what have you thought about what you've seen so far from him? I know it's not been a lot, but you get glimpses of the new system.
Yeah, so I wouldn't read too much into what I saw with the offense because they're still installing everything. It's a work in progress. I put more stock into what I'm hearing from the coaches, from the players, and I sense that the optimism they have is genuine. And the reason I frame it that way is because no one in the spring is like, yeah, this offense stinks, why do we make this change? But I think that when you hear some of the truth tellers on the team, guys like Lane Johnson, guys like, for him to say that they think they can unlock the running game and that this is a system that they really wanted. And I think Sean Mannion does a good job in explaining to the players and to the public what this offense, the intention is, the why behind it. And so I'd be more encouraged about that than what I've seen on the field because they're really in the installation stage at this point.
I mean, Dave, I think that's the real thing. You're trying to extrapolate what you're seeing into like a broader scheme and a broader scale. What did you make of what you've seen?
Yeah, I agree with Zach that I wouldn't take away like big takeaways about how the offense performed in these practices. But I think there are things to see, and it looks different. And that's important because they didn't bring Sean Mannion here to run the same style offense that put them in the position to go find Sean Mannion. So I think the staples of what we think this offense is going to look like, we saw out there. They were under center more. There was some more play action. We saw a little bit more 12 personnel. Like all those staples that we were expecting, we saw. Now, is it a completed product? Are they ready to go play a football game? I think clearly not, but that's to be expected. I think what I was encouraged by was that it didn't seem like they were making like massive mistakes. It seemed like they were aligning correctly. And when you're in the install phase of this process, that stuff's really important.
The Eagles added two big pieces on defense, Jonathan Grenard and, of course, Reek Woolen. Dave, big fan of Reek Woolen, what he's seen so far. So I'll start with you, though, Zach. How much of an impact do you expect both of those guys to make?
An enormous impact. And you already saw it this spring with Reek Woolen. He looks different. I mean, standing out there, he looks like a small forward playing cornerback, but he made plays in practice. And the book on Reek Woolen when they signed him is that the high water mark is the high-level cornerback. It's the inconsistencies was the reason why he didn't get the long-term deal. Well, you didn't see those inconsistencies this spring. And so if Reek Woolen plays the way he did this spring and the way he's capable of playing, they're gonna have the best cornerback combination in the NFL. And then with Jonathan Grenard, we didn't see him in team drills, but I'd be encouraged just based on the resume. Losing Jalen Phillips was a big loss, and Jonathan Grenard fills that spot. Mm-hmm. They needed that top of the depth chart edge rusher, and he provides that.
I mean, the defense took a little bit of a hit last year. We know, Dave. How much do you think, including Reek Woolen, they're going to be just better and as advertised?
I mean, they're so talented. And the thing I like about this defense so much is that they have talent on all three levels. It's up front at linebacker. Obviously, you love what Zach Bond does, and I'm encouraged by year two of Jahad Campbell. And then, like Zach mentioned, this has the potential to be the best cornerback trio in the NFL. And Reek Woolen has been, I think, better than advertised, and it's early, all those caveats. We know to pump the brakes a little bit, but, I mean, it was so much fun watching him in the spring. I can't wait to watch him in the summer. And I think what we also saw this spring was that a lot of these players are in year three with Vic Fangio. Continuity matters. You have good players playing together for a long time. You get the benefit of that on the field.
So having seen the Eagles for a handful of practices now, expectations for this team overall, Zach?
Dave hit it on the head in terms of the defense, and that I think raises the floor for the Eagles. I think they have one of the top defenses in the NFL, and if there are growing pains with the offense, or if the offense, even if it doesn't reach its full potential early, this defense is good enough to keep them in contention. So the question is, how quickly does the offense develop? And I think the Eagles, if they're a Super Bowl contender, if the offense plays the way They're expecting it to play. If they develop under Sean Mannion, they're just a playoff team if the offense has growing pains.
Zach, thanks as always. We appreciate you. Enjoy the next couple of weeks off before camp.